Hello, you guys, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode of No More Kids in Scientology. This is the hashtag that we speak about every day because we were born in Scientology, you guys, and we don't want a single more child to experience what we experienced. So thank you for hitting the notification, subscribing, and liking this video so that we can continue raising awareness about the plights that minors inside of Scientology hotels are having for themselves as of this year 2024. So we're going to start this video, you guys, by simply reacting in real time to a video that was dropped by John Atack, author John Atack, that wrote a book about L. Ron Hubbard and titled it A Piece of Blue Sky. So was it really what L. Ron Hubbard was selling, John Atack? Was it just a piece of blue sky? Or was it something else as well? Double check the title of your book and see if there was anything else that was being sold by L. Ron Hubbard, because that would be great to really understand. So this is an interview that apparently was released quite a while ago, but it was hidden behind a paywall. So I guess the crisis management operation has still been going on, because wouldn't it be great to just release a video behind a paywall having to do with a subject as serious as what this video is actually about? And it just seems extremely suspicious that it's taken this long to get released. But, who are we to judge? Maybe John and Mike were actually inspired by Dan Schneider, since this was released on the heels of Dan Schneider from Nickelodeon, a completely different subject, but yet another child abuser that went on the record to really talk about all manner of things that he was sorry about, but his accountability was nowhere to be found. So on the heels of coming out of that situationship, you guys, we see this video get dropped. So yes, we are going to react to what's being presented here on the public record and give you guys our opinion.
Hello, everybody. I'm John Atack, and this is Mike Rinder. Hi, Mike.
Hi, John. So nice to see you again after so long.
It's
It's
been
been a
like
bit of a
year,
delay.
Yeah, you've been avoiding me all this time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I studiously avoiding you.
Yeah, just because you had cancer.
So right away, you guys, I mean, I get it that this is a YouTube community. I get that people do not want to hear people being, rightfully upset about unthinkable child abuse that took place inside of Scientology hotels. I get that that is not very palatable. But imagine being Mike Rinder and laughing it up here in his little interview and talking about how it's been such a long time, and also is giving very condescending vibes, because it's talking all about how Mike Rinder was specifically called out by Miriam for taking such a long time to answer communications of hers. So they're making light of that, and they're also using an opportunity to begin the interview by speaking about Mike Rinder's cancer treatment as if that has not been already plastered all over the internet for literally so long. So why these two men try to come across, relatable and laughing shows a level of tone deafness that is still completely underlining and underscoring what is actually going on.
It's no excuse, Mike. Well, we find ourselves in the middle of a conflagration where fundamentally, since irreconcilable differences separated Aaron Smith Levin from the Aftermath Foundation, a war has brewed.
So leave it up to all these people to always want to talk about people worrying. Imagine getting called out for complete and utterly inappropriate behavior. And both John Atack and his new master, Mike Rinder, come up with the idea, let's really pitch this as a war. A war happened because, what was it that he said? Oh yeah, a war happened because there were irreconcilable differences between Aaron Smith Levin and the Aftermath. Wasn't it that he got voted off? So what was the irreconcilable difference there, John Atack? Because again, it's always how these people link something to something else. And it's just so obvious that they're doing it.
And there are people, devoted people on both sides. It is my hope, after 40 years of dealing with the mess that Scientology creates, it is my hope to not take sides.
Well, isn't that great, John Atack, that your evolution of 40 years has landed you in the place where we were given the pitch inside of the hotels for the same thing. In the hotels, it was also children and adults are the same. Everyone should always be on the same side. No child's getting abused because you're just an adult. So imagine that you studied who L. Ron Hubbard was. Imagine that you put out a book purporting to put yourself as the expert of experts on all things L. Ron Hubbard. And you're really going with the pitch that we should just always, get together and always just be on the same side. On the same side of what, sir? Were you a minor when you signed up to become part of this scheme? Is a racketeering, child trafficking scheme, in case you didn't notice, John Atack, in case your research on the convicted felon that you put a ton of footnotes about all this research that you did, in case that fraudster escaped from the actual outpoint of who L. Ron Hubbard was. In case you weren't able to investigate that on your subject, let's make sure that that becomes very, very clear to you. Because again, it's like all of these guys always want to pitch, let's all just get on the same side. On the same side of what, sir? Were you in Scientology as a newborn baby? Yes or no? So in what world, if you weren't into that, in what world were you an adult choosing, consenting, and literally signing up and paying for the services? The person that really goes to the children affected by this issue and tell them that, what's the big deal? We were adults and yeah, we were abused and you were a child and you were abused. Let's all get on the same page. Let's all become one again. It's all we ever get.
And to try and, further what is good for all concerned.
Right.
What we have here is a three-cornered fight, and
what would help all concerned, you guys, and not to beat a literal dead horse, but Yes, to beat a dead horse with a baseball bat, because it is the 2024th year that is being counted on this Earth calculator. And so it all benefit to everything, whatever, John Atack, the children should be literally getting taken out of those hotels and commercial buildings. And you should know, since you are a father that studied everything about L. Ron Hubbard, you should know, since you have purported to be the expert that really knows everything that L. Ron Hubbard wrote about, you should be literally advocating for the kids that were ensnared in such a racketeering child trafficking scheme. But instead, you choose to help the man that was literally bringing the kids, including but not limited to Miriam Francis, into the hotel. So make that make sense right away. We would love to hear how that makes a shred of sense.
You know, I've been given a lot of questions by Miriam Francis, and you know, we both have publicly expressed our sympathy for her situation, which is dreadful, and we hope that her father will be brought to justice.
Yeah, we hope that Miriam's father is brought to justice. We hope every single last adult that signed up and paid to follow L. Ron Hubbard without a shred of critical thinking skills for themselves, that committed aggravated child abuse at an industrial size scale in unthinkable, disgusting, sadistic so-called audits, role plays that children were exposed to also face that law, given that we were exposed. We were ensnared. We were commoditized. We were turned into peons to serve at the pleasure of adults that told us that we were able to consent, that we were able to get certificates, that we were to be used to do everything they were having us do inside of the disgusting hotel. That would also be another great thing that you can add to your list.
The awful things that he did. But she said, you know, that even though Scientology is an aspect of this, and people will keep saying, you know, remember that there's Scientology there, that there should be justice for anybody who's been involved in anything.
There should be justice for people that have systemically covered up child trafficking and child abuse, John Atack. And since every single last detail of the felonies that Miriam's dad committed against his own child were admitted to, written up, video recorded, put all over the personnel files of, as it was standard operating procedure to do with all self-admitted felons inside of that hotel. Perhaps you could focus on that part of y'all's problem. You, from the standpoint that you've been a so-called whistleblower for 40 years and you haven't blown the whistle on children, imagine that. Imagine that you haven't called out the systemic abuse taking place in audits, John Atack. In audit. Don't try to frame it like, oh, I once upon a time helped on a child here and there. Under what circumstances? Under what circumstances are you erecting walls so that systemic institutionalized abuse of minors, including calling them adults, isn't taking place?
That has harmed children. I agree with that point of view. I believe you agree with that point of view too.
Absolutely.
And she's pointing the finger very much.
I mean, I'm glad you guys agree with that point of view today. Where was that point of view when Mike Rinder was inside the Office of Special Affairs? Where was that point of literal view? Because again, you guys, it's all this like, oh yeah, you really want to help kids. I mean, who wouldn't agree to that? Well, the people inside of the hotel, L. Ron Hubbard's proteges, didn't agree with that point of view. L. Ron Hubbard's proteges went with the pitch that the children were fair game, that the children were adults. And just like that, this is what we're getting, literally.
Much at you. I would like to say that by my estimation, there are between 3,000 and 4,000 people who are being held as slaves today in the Scientology organization under the name of the Sea organization. They are slaves. You understand that better than anybody understands it because of the time that you spent being a slave of Ron Hubbard and later of David Miscavige.
Isn't that great, you guys, that we have this gift from John Atack being very concerned over the fact that full-blown consenting adults that can sign up to be slaves, that can say, you know what would really be great for my life is to do this with my life. Full time. I don't want to do anything else. I want to be told what to do. I really want to renounce all my civil liberties. I really want to be dominated, humiliated. Doesn't matter. Do it to me all. But imagine that children do not have the capacity to make that choice for themselves. So as much as, again, this is what they do day in and day out. Let's conflate everything into one bucket. And we really have to save everyone at the same time because everyone matters, because there's a lot of slaves and there's adults there making that decision for themselves. And yes, the FBI can break down that little party, find out who is committing aggravated child abuse, which is a very serious felony. And then whoever wants to stay there, not having unfettered access to children, can stay there. No, why does anybody owe them anything, John Atack? And why are the children not being advocated for as the top priority? And why is all this pitch going around circle and circle and circle over and over and over to again put altered importance matters on the table enough that nothing else ever gets done? That's all we ever get. Altered importance after altered importance after altered importance. And you know what else would be a very great altered importance that we should really speak about right now? So we really flood all airwaves with altered importances, because we're really going to get very far if we do that. Right or wrong?
We must not forget that. And bearing in mind Benjamin Franklin's, to paraphrase what he said, we either hang together or we hang separately. And there is, a huge organization with billions of dollars that would like to see an end to us all so that it can triumphantly clear the planet.
No, John Atack. Breaking news to you. There was no planet being cleared by turning children who couldn't consent to become slaves. So literally stop pitching children and adults in the same sentence and stop pretending that you care about everything the same. Your altered importance couldn't be more obvious as you guys just sit here literally pitching ideas that L. Ron Hubbard gave you and still apparently going with that pitch. Imagine you're still at it 40 years later, had so much time to really, compartmentalize the problem and, really pick it apart. But apparently you have been incapable. because apparently you do fall under that quote that L. Ron Hubbard did teach us, John Atack. In case you don't know this quote, go check it out. What is the one thing man can and won't confront? Aha, evil. So maybe you're still stuck in your thiety-weety ways, figuring out how, it wasn't that bad, and we really just have to save another world. So you left the hotel and now you're saving an entire 4,000 adults from self-destructing because, adults and kids are stuck in the hotel under the same exact circumstances. Interesting.
Of all common sense and goodness.
Right.
So with that in mind, I would like to ask some direct and simple questions.
Well, imagine that the direct and simple questions, you guys, are going to come at the expense of not actually answering the questions that Miriam wrote. So you guys start connecting your own dots, leave your own thoughts in the comments, because how are we ever going to get anywhere if all we ever get is another version of a literal platter with excrement with a different type of air freshener? So you guys let me know, how is this ever going to get anywhere? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all extremely soon.